One of the tactics used by evolutionists against intelligent design is to claim that it is unscientific. This claim rests on two main smaller claims. The first is that it is not naturalistic. The second is that it is unfalsifiable. What is interesting is that attacking the scientific nature of intelligent design in biology is attacking it in fields such as archaeology and criminal forensics as well. The first claim is that intelligent design cannot be considered scientific because it is not naturalistic, and science can only consider naturalistic explanations. This is fundamentally untrue because there is nothing in the scientific method that forbids a supernatural explanation. It is only in institutionalized science where there is a priori commitment to absolute naturalism that supernatural explanations are not allowed. Such an argument not only excludes a possibility of some kind of natural designer. Ultimately, the key to understanding this argument is a desire on the part of those making it to exclude God as a possible explanation for anything. When you look at the scientific method, there is nothing in it that says that the hypothesis being proposed has to be naturalistic. All that is actually needed is that it has to be testable. That is, it has to produce some results that can be detected. One thing frequently not pointed out is the fact that naturalistic explanations can also be untestable. In both cases, the hypothesis simply has to be narrow enough to make testable predictions. However, both natural and supernatural explanations can be too broad to produce testable predictions. String theory is an example of just such a hypothesis. The concept exists as an attempt to unify gravity with the other three fundamental forces, but it is so flexible that it cannot produce falsifiable predictions. While an intelligent designer can be considered unfalsifiable in the sense of being able to produce structures totally indistinguishable from something produced by natural forces, such a notion not only applies in biology, but in archaeology and criminal forensics as well. In fact, when committing a murder, the most intelligent thing the perpetrator can do is to make the death look as natural as possible. Also, any overly broad hypothesis, such as God did it, the Egyptians did it, a murderer did it, or even natural causes did it, are unfalsifiable. If, however, you narrow the focus on more specific details, it becomes possible to make testable predictions. One aspect of intelligent design is the fact that intelligence can be highly determinative, resulting in being able to overcome even the smallest of statistical improbabilities. This means that one of the predictions that comes from considering an intelligent designer is the presence of extremely improbable arrangements that reach to the level of being statistically impossible. Another prediction of intelligent design is the presence of irreducible complexity. Irreducible complexity is the situation where a system will not function if it is reduced to a simpler state. Evolutionists have tried to demonstrate that such claims are false. One example in particular is the human eye. The human eye has many aspects to it that it cannot function without, making it irreducibly complex. It doesn't take much for any of these features to be either removed or misformed for the eye to not work properly or at all. Evolutionists tend to attack the irreducible complexity of the human eye by comparing it to those of various animals. One of the problems with these attacks is that they are simply aligning existing functional eyes in a sequence that simply adds new parts, sometimes erroneously. For example, the nautilus eye is actually open to the sea. When you compare a human eye to those of these sea creatures, not only is it more complicated, partly because of the necessity to see and hear, but it truly is irreducibly complex because these parts are all necessary for it to work properly. They also neglect the problems of going between the eyes on these lists. One other thing that is often missed is the fact that the eyes usually presented are of aquatic animals. This means they are completely ignoring the difference between seeing underwater and seeing in air. It ignores the fact that cells themselves are irreducibly complex in the sense that there are levels to which they can be reduced that will kill them. Scientists have actually reduced the number of proteins being used by a cell to the bare minimum level. The third prediction of intelligent design is that the more we learn about life, the more highly organized and complex it will be seen to be. Also, the difficulty in producing a living cell from scratch will increase as we learn more. Going back to Darwin's day, a cell was seen as nothing more than a simple little blob of protoplasm. Since then, we have discovered the existence of numerous organelles and molecular machines that are responsible for a cell functioning. Furthermore, we have learned that a cell operates with a complex specific information system that we call DNA. Here is an illustration showing many of the complex organized structures found in living cells called organelles. This illustration does not include the many molecular machines that allow the cell to function. Here is an illustration of a kinesin protein. It is also known as a walking protein, as you can see here, with it carrying this little bag of proteins. In conclusion, ultimately has a theory, intelligent design is falsifiable because it makes several testable predictions, which makes it a scientific concept. Furthermore, these predictions have been demonstrated successfully. It is interesting how no one really has any problems with efforts to detect intelligence in archaeology, forensics, and even SETI. However, in biology, it is fundamentally rejected. This is because the real problem is a fundamental rejection of the concept of intelligent design in general by institutionalized science. At its core, this is because of a fundamental rejection of God.